Good Wednesday, everybody. Glad you could be here. Excited to show off the new safety module form builder for Concrete Vision today. I will ask for a little forgiveness for myself and Angel. We are both feeling a little under the weather, but we're going to do our best to try not to cough in anybody's ear as we're getting through this webinar. We're going to do the opening remarks. I'll introduce Angel and myself, why we developed it, the product summary, creating and customizing the safety form submission pages, safety supervisor reports. Then we'll do Q&A, and then we'll wrap up by thanking everybody for their time. My name is Brent Wilson. I'm the technical project manager for Concrete Vision. If you've been to one of our webinars before, you've heard me jibber jabber quite a lot. And presenting today will be the developer who wrote this module, created it, concepted it, and is the reason this exists. Angel Aracavalletta. He is one of our full-time senior developers and is a great guy and really knows his stuff. So again, we're going to go into I'm going to show you the agenda, but now I'm going to hand things over to Angel, and he is going to take over sharing his screen and unmute himself. And then I will be answering questions and cataloging them as he goes through his outline for this webinar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today I'll be demonstrating the safety form builder module. The module is located, or the controls for the modules are located in two sections. The creation is in the configuration section. Within configuration, you'll find the safety setup menu. Within the safety setup menu is the safety forms. These are samples that we have pre-created just for this demonstration. To try to expedite the demonstration, is quite a large module. It's comprised of three main sections. This being the first main section, which is the safety forms creator. This is meant for administrators to go in and design and implement safety forms directly into CV, so they don't have to open a ticket with us and have us create it for them. Second module is the actual submission page, which the safety worker, the person doing the inspection or the assessment of the equipment, would go in and fill out the form which was created here. And finally, there's a safety supervisor report. That safety supervisor report is where the supervisor can go in and review each one of the submitted inspection assessments that were generated for each one of these safety forms. We'll begin here with the actual control for the safety forms. As you can see, there are 4 main buttons for each one of the safety forms and the actual add new form. Each one of these have their own particular function. This is the audit. This basically tells you when a form was created, when it was modified. This is our copy button. I would recommend that once you start creating the forms, you use the last one as a template so that you can expedite the function of creating each form. The following button is delete button. The delete button is only available if a form has never been submitted for the form. So basically, if a worker has never submitted an assessment using the form, you will have the ability to delete the form. If an assessment has been created, you cannot delete the form so that the supervisor report is still available within the menu. Lastly, there is the actual button for editing. If you've already created the form, you can go in, click the button, and modify the form as many times as you like. Deleting is easy. Click a button. Are you sure you want to delete? And it's gone. I'll walk you through now creating a simple form, and then we'll look at these, which are more complex, very thought through forms, which are by request, so that you can see how powerful the tool itself is. So I'll start off by going and adding a new form. Adding the new form will automatically generate some of the form values, some of the items that need to be incorporated into the form in order for the safety supervisor report to function, so that we can basically populate the data for that particular screen. So we break the edit safety form or create safety form page into basically 4 sections. The first section being the menu item, selection of name, the form title, whether it should be active or available for safety personnel to fill out the form, and what order in the menu you want to show this. Second section is the form items themselves. We'll walk you through creating the form and the 13 different types of items that you can create with this module. Beneath that, there are some standard options which the form has. Basically, you can create comments or display comments within the assessment form for the safety personnel to fill out. This would be just a default value that that you don't have to add within the form items. Secondly is the attachments, whether you want to give the person the ability to add attachments to the assessment. We have tested it on iOS devices. It will allow the person to take a picture and attach the picture directly to the assessment. Notes. Notes are displayed at the top of the assessment. Basically, we consider it maybe if you want to add instructions to how to fill out the form or certain caveats that they need to look out for when doing the assessment for this particular piece of equipment or so forth. The final section, the 4th section, is the form recipients. What this populates is a drop down, which the person assessing the form would select from. They would assign a supervisor or their manager to review the form, and then they can assign someone forward the form to as well. We'll start here on the add button, and basically they can just select from a list or search out the name of their supervisor or the person who would need to review the form. So I'll just drop in a couple names onto this form, and I'll add the same names to the forward to. Okay. So then we start from the obvious, so start from the top, work your way down of creating. I'm going to be creating a simple form in this particular demonstration of an assessment for a forklift. So we will go ahead and just call it forklift inspection, and that would be the name that would be displayed within the safety menu, and this will be displayed at the top of the assessment form itself. Each safety form has 2 values which are required, and when you try to activate the form, you're going to see which are these 2 values. First one is a form item with a label of type. So basically, it would be forklift type. So warehouse forklift, an outdoor forklift, a rough terrain forklift, a side loader, that sort of thing. And then finally, the total assessment. These 2 items are necessary, again, for the supervisor report. So before you're able to activate this form, you would need to fill these two items out or have them created within the form. So we'll go ahead and start creating a form out here. So we'll add the first one, which will be the forklift type. And as you can see, you have many options of item types that you can add into the form itself, or the assessment form. For this particular label, or for this particular type, which is the forklift type, I'm going to select the drop-down list. And in the drop-down list, I'm going to add the items that I want to display in the drop-down list. So let's say type is a warehouse forklift. We're going to add that one. Say a rough terrain forklift. Let's say a side loader. We're going to make this a required field. And we'll add that into our form. And just to get out of the way, the necessary item, we will go ahead and add the assessment. Okay. And I'm going to make that one drop down as well. And I'm going to say my options are it passed, or it failed. And I'm going to make that required. Now, being that that's a pass fail, if you failed, I want to know why. So we're going to add another item, and we're going to say reason for failure. Select the dependent value. So if the person selected the failed, they're going to see this new form item, which is going to be a text area that they can fill out. And I will make it required so that they have to fill it out because the assessment failed. At this point, we can activate the form and save it out. You get notified that it was saved out. The reason I'm making such a short form is because I want to show you that now within the safety menu item, you'll see the forklift inspection, and you'll see the forklift inspection supervisor report. I'm going to go ahead and open this in another tab so we can continue creating the form, but also be able to refer to what's it looking like. What is the worker going to see when they're actually filling out the form? And as you can see, the form items that we created are now shown here. And if the person was to say failed, that field that I told you of the reason for the failure will display itself. So we'll go back to the form and we will continue creating the form. So we'll add another top level item. And don't worry about the order. We'll modify the order of where it's going to be showing at the end once we know how many form items we actually added in. I'm not going to add too many, just want to show you a demonstration of how you add them in. So we're adding in another item, which the person's going to have to add in. So let's say within the forklift, it's safety equipment. We're going to check it to see if it passes or fails. So on the note, we would say this is what we consider the safety equipment on a forklift. We can go ahead and make that italic and give it a color if you want to, just so it looks a little better on the page itself. And you'll see that we created some predefined pass fails that you can just quickly select, and you don't have to worry about creating a drop down or creating your own input field or radio group. And we'll go ahead and update that, and we'll go back to the assessment page itself and reload it. And you'll see now we have the safety equipment pass fail with the message underneath. Obviously, the order, we didn't modify it, so it's at the bottom. But again, at the end, we'll go back change that out. And it's as easy as you go in and say, this position, I want it on 8. This position, I want it on 9. We'll update, we'll save, and we'll reload this page. And now, as you can see, they switch positions for you. Obviously, you try to go and create each item, and then organize at the end. It'll make things just a bit faster for you. There are many different types of item types that you can create here. One of the item types is an image. So, for example, if you wanted to add an image to basically explain to the person, okay, when I say forklift type and I say warehouse, well, what do you mean by that? You can go ahead and add an item and say, if the person selects warehouse as a forklift type, I want to add an image. Select that image and say, this is what I mean by a forklift, warehouse forklift. I will update that. Go ahead and save the page and see how we're doing with our creation. As you can see, we now have our image for the forklift, for the warehouse forklift. If you switch to the rough terrain forklift, you'll see it disappears as it's not pertinent to this particular item. Other options which the form allows, as you can see, are checkboxes, date pickers, date time pickers, address if you wanted. The email address is not to send the form to anyone. It's just an input field for an email address. So let's say if you wanted to add an email input field of the email for the contact for repairing a piece of equipment, this would be your input type. There is also section headers. If you wanted to just make the form prettier, you can go ahead and add section headers within the form. Section headers just appear at the top or wherever you add them based on the order by. And we can make that bold and update that. And let's say I want to put that section 6. Okay, save that. And we'll reload. And you'll see the header just goes ahead and adds itself to the form as a header. So that's how you basically create the form. You go one by one with the things you may need for the assessment. For an assessment, most of it is pass fail, but there will be items. For example, if you wanted to go ahead and put in the VIN number to a vehicle, just so that you know which vehicle in particular we're discussing, that would be an input type of text. So we would say, I want the VIN number, please, and make that required. And we're going to put that position 4 and save up the form. And when we reload the form, you'll see they'll have the option to go ahead and put in the VIN number for that piece of equipment so that we can identify which piece of equipment was actually assessed. Or it's pretty dynamic. You can create dependency items, and I'll show you that in the more complicated forms that were pre-created so that you can see how complex you can make the form if you want. Or you can make it as simple as this. Did it pass? Did it fail? What failed? What to test? Have an item here which is just tires. Tires, are they good? And that would be a simple pass fail. environment, put it in any position you want, save out the form, and that right there. Um, okay, so now this form is active. You'll see that that form is available to one of the staff that needs to do an assessment. That's what we've been looking at here as we've been creating the form. If after creating the form, you're not sure if the form is ready or you need to pause, you always have the option to make it inactive, save the form, and you'll see that it drops off the menu. You no longer have the form accessible to anyone. You don't have to worry about someone filling out a form that's incomplete. You do want to be able to see the form. So now I'll move on, showing you a more complex form. So within the safety, go back to safety setup, safety forms, and you'll see that we have these other items that were pre-created. And we'll just go into here so you can see them. Within here, you'll see that these are much more complicated forms where, as you can see, what was done was the form was divided. Two forms were created, one for equipment, another form was created for miscellaneous equipment. So we're talking for miscellaneous equipment, we're talking power cords and that sort of thing, lifts, that sort of thing. And then here we're talking more excavators, forklifts, that sort of equipment. And each one of them has a pass fail and a line item. These are currently inactive. I'll show you form so you can take a look at it. So on these forms, which are way more complicated, the person fills out the general information of where and when the assessment is being made, then the type of equipment. Since we just did forklift, I'll switch over to forklift. And then the pass fails for forklift inspection. At the very end, as you can see, this form was created to notify the person. If anything failed, please notify your manager and the total assessment. In this particular case, it was done as radio buttons instead of the drop down that we just did on the simple form. But it's up to you which way you want to make it. The comments and attachments are just settings that can be switched on and off. If you don't want attachments added, if you don't want comments added, just turn them off from the actual tool. Go back to the tool. That's these options here, where you can turn off the comments, turn off the attachments, turn off the notes, save that out, back to that form, and you'll see that that's all gone. It's as easy as that. We tried to make this as simple as possible for someone to create a form. Support staff is always online, so if you need help, we can help you. We also have within the help menu our online documentation. You go to the online documentation, type in safety, and you'll find exactly long instructions all typed up on how to use each one of these module tools. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate submitting the actual form. So let's say I did an assessment today at 2:30. I know it's not 2:30 yet, but let's just say it. The division, the location. These two items are created using these two controls that my colleague Nate created. If you want to know more about using them, just go to our August webinar and you'll see the instructions on how to go ahead and use these and create these items. Then we'll say, what area was inspection? Let's say it was a yard inspection. We were checking the forklift. Everything on the forklift is good. Assign the contact person who is going to receive the email, which is generated from this form. It attaches any attachments that were uploaded and everything that was added within the form. And it looks exactly the same way as you see it here within the email. And we'll go ahead and send that. Sent. And as a supervisor, you would go in and find that form that was submitted. This page, we'll go ahead and view the form. As you can see, it shows exactly the same as what the person who made the assessment submitted. And from here, if, for example, you wanted to resend the email, you just hit the submit button and it will resend this email over to the person who it was assigned to. If you wanted to export this information, you would hit the export button, and that will create a PDF with what you see here, and it will also add in, as part of the export, all the images that may have been attached to this particular assessment.
Why don't you show us the PDF real quick, Angel?
Absolutely. Which can you see it there?
Yep. Go
Okay.
ahead and scroll down so that we can see the whole thing.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. So close that out. The supervisor report allows the supervisor to go ahead and export this particular grid to both PDF and Excel. To go ahead and just make an assessment of their own, they can do that as well from here. Simple as just clicking the button and they'll be right at the assessment, and they can go ahead and add the assessment themselves. I think that's everything. We tried to make this as easy as possible for everyone to use.
I would recommend that everybody here who hasn't seen the webinar from 2 months ago, where we released the original first few forms of safety, there are some areas in configuration that Angel mentioned, like areas, divisions, locations, that we discuss in more depth there. Those are useful for ways to break down and do reporting out for your safety forms and inspections. So I would recommend going back and watching that webinar on our YouTube channel as well, if you haven't yet seen it. So that is a quick, brief overview of the new safety forms creator. I am assuming some of you are watching this and saying, I also see a whole lot of opportunity that this could be used for elsewhere in the system. And so do we. So there will come a time in the future, probably not that long before, where we will be using the technology that Angel has created here to create forms in the system for other areas of the Concrete Vision platform. But right now it exists strictly in the safety module. I will once again thank Angel for his time and for showing this all to us. And thank you all again for joining us for the webinar.